The snow came down so hard that Amelia Lancaster couldn't see her own hand stretched out before her face, and she knew with a sinking certainty that she would die alone in this frozen wasteland if she didn't find shelter within the hour. She had been traveling from Santa Fe to her aunt's homestead near Lincoln, New Mexico Territory, in this bitter January of 1878, when the wagon driver had taken ill suddenly. He'd insisted she continue on horseback while he rested at the last trading post, promising the route was simple enough. But the blizzard had swept in from nowhere, a white wall of ice and wind that turned the familiar trail into a maze of death. Her horse had stumbled in a hidden drift an hour ago, throwing her hard before bolting into the whiteness. She'd called after the animal until her voice went hoarse, but the wind swallowed every sound. Now Amelia pushed forward on foot, her green traveling dress already soaked through despite her wool coat. Ice clung to her dark hair, and her fingers had gone numb inside her gloves. She was 20 years old, a schoolteacher from Boston who thought herself prepared for Western hardships. How foolish that seemed now. The cold bit through every layer, stealing warmth and hope with equal measure. Through the driving snow, she glimpsed something dark, a shape. She blinked away the ice crystals on her lashes and staggered toward it, praying it wasn't a mirage born of desperation. The shape solidified into a structure, a cabin, small but solid with smoke rising from a stone chimney. Life, warmth, salvation. Amelia stumbled up 2 wooden steps and pounded on the door with fists she could barely feel. "Please," she called out, her voice cracking. "Please, someone help me." The door opened so quickly she nearly fell forward. Strong hands caught her shoulders, steadying her, and she looked up into the bluest eyes she'd ever seen. They belonged to a man perhaps 25 years old, tall and broad-shouldered, with light brown hair that curled slightly at his collar. His face showed concern and surprise in equal measure. "Good Lord," he said, his voice deep and steady. "Get inside, quickly now." He pulled her into the cabin's warmth and shut the door firmly against the howling wind. Amelia stood dripping on his floor, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. The cabin's heat felt like knives against her frozen skin. "I'm sorry," she managed. "My horse, the storm, I couldn't." "Hush now," the man said gently. "You're safe, that's what matters." He guided her toward the fireplace where flames danced cheerfully. "We need to get you out of those wet clothes before you catch your death. I've got blankets and some clothes that might work. They'll be too large, but they're dry." He moved to a trunk in the corner while Amelia tried to make her fingers work well enough to unbutton her coat. They wouldn't cooperate. The man returned with an armful of fabric and set it on a chair near the fire. "My name's Isaac Northwood," he said. "I run cattle in these parts. This is my winter cabin." He noticed her struggling with the buttons. "Would you like help? I promise I'm a gentleman." "I'll only undo the coat and then turn my back while you change." Amelia nodded, too cold and desperate to worry about propriety. "Amelia Lancaster, from Boston. Thank you." Isaac's fingers worked quickly at the buttons, and soon he'd freed her from the sodden coat. True to his word, he immediately turned away, facing the far wall. "There's a flannel shirt and some trousers there. Thick socks, too. Change quickly and wrap yourself in those blankets. I'll make some coffee." Amelia's hands shook as she peeled away her wet dress and undergarments, but the promise of dry clothing motivated her. The flannel shirt hung nearly to her knees, and she had to roll the trouser legs several times, but they were blissfully dry. She wrapped herself in 2 thick wool blankets and sat in the chair closest to the fire. "I'm decent," she said. Isaac turned back and she caught something in his expression that quickly. Surprise, appreciation, whatever it was disappeared as he busied himself with the coffee pot. The cabin was small but well kept. One room served as kitchen, bedroom, and living space. A bed occupied one corner, made up neatly with a colorful quilt. Shelves held supplies, and a small table with two chairs sat near the window, though the shutters were closed against the storm. "How long have you been out in that?" Isaac asked, measuring coffee grounds into the pot. "Hours, I think. I lost track of time. My horse threw me when it stumbled. I've been walking since then." Isaac's jaw tightened. "You're lucky to be alive. This isn't just snow, it's a full blizzard. Worst I've seen in years." He hung the coffee pot on a hook over the fire. "Were you traveling alone?" The wagon driver took ill at the last trading post. "He said the route to my aunt's homestead was straightforward. I thought I could manage." Amelia pulled the blankets tighter. "I was wrong." "Who's your aunt?" "Martha Lancaster. She has a homestead about 20 miles from Lincoln." Isaac nodded. "I know the place. She's got a good setup there. You were headed in roughly the right direction, at least, but you'd have never made it in this storm." He poured coffee into 2 tin cups and brought one to her. "Careful, it's hot." The coffee scalded her tongue, but Amelia didn't care. The warmth spread through her chest, and she wrapped her hands around the cup gratefully. "How long do you think the storm will last?" Isaac settled into the other chair, cradling his own coffee. "Hard to say. Could be a day, could be 3. We're well stocked here, though. Food, firewood, water. We won't suffer for necessities." He paused. "Only concern is propriety, you being here alone with me." "But I reckon survival trumps reputation." "I'm not worried about that," Amelia said firmly. "You saved my life. Besides, no one need know the details. Your aunt will know you were caught in the storm. She'll be grateful I survived." Amelia sipped her coffee again. "Do you spend winters here alone?" "Most of the time. I've got a main ranch about 10 miles east, where my hired hands winter the bulk of the herd. But I keep some cattle in the valleys around here, and I check on them regular." Was planning to head back to the main ranch tomorrow, but this storm put an end to that idea. Isaac gestured toward the window. "We're snowed in proper. Door opens outward, thank God, or we'd be trapped inside." The reality of her situation settled over Amelia like the blankets. She was alone in a cabin with a strange man, miles from anywhere with a blizzard raging outside. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt safe. Something about Isaac's steady presence, his calm competence, eased her fear. His gentle words when he'd first seen her, the care he'd taken with her dignity, all spoke of a good man. "Tell me about Boston," Isaac said, breaking into her thoughts. "I've never been east of Kansas." Amelia smiled. "It's very different from here. Crowded, noisy. Buildings packed together so tight you can barely see the sky. But there are libraries and theaters and museums. Culture and learning everywhere you turn." "Sounds overwhelming." "It can be. That's partly why I came west. My aunt wrote about the space here, the open sky. She made it sound like freedom." Amelia looked toward the shuttered window. "Though I'm learning the West has its own dangers." "That it does," Isaac agreed, "but also beauty. Come spring, these hills turn green as emeralds, wildflowers everywhere. And the sky stretches forever, big enough to hold all your dreams and troubles both." His voice carried a warmth that made Amelia look at him more closely. His face had a weathered quality, but laugh lines crinkled near his eyes. This was a man who smiled often, despite the hardships of his life. "Why ranching?" she asked. "Out here alone." Isaac was quiet for a moment, staring into his coffee. "My parents died of fever when I was 16. They had a small ranch in Texas. I sold it and drifted for a few years, working cattle drives, learning the trade, saved every penny. When I was 21, I came to New Mexico and bought land. That was 4 years ago. I've been building ever since. It's not much yet, but it's mine. Every cow, every acre, every board in this cabin. I built it with my own hands." "That's remarkable," Amelia said and meant it. "You must be very determined." "Stubborn is what my foreman calls it," Isaac smiled. "But yes, I suppose determined fits too. A man needs something of his own in this world, something that can't be taken away." "Except by blizzards," Amelia said wryly. Isaac laughed, a rich sound that filled the small cabin. "A blizzard can take your cattle, maybe your life if you're foolish, but it can't take your land or what you've built. That endures." They talked as the storm raged outside. Isaac told her about ranching, about the challenges of keeping cattle alive through harsh winters and finding enough water in summer, about the satisfaction of seeing a calf born healthy and watching the herd grow. Amelia told him about teaching, about the joy of seeing a child's face light up when they finally grasped a difficult concept. She spoke of her students back in Boston, the children of immigrants and working folk who hungered for education like others hungered for bread. "Why did you leave them?" Isaac asked. "If you loved teaching so much," Amelia's smile faded. "There was a man, Paul Henderson. He worked at his father's bank. Handsome, educated, everything a young woman was supposed to want. He courted me for 6 months and I thought—" She shook her head. "I thought he cared for me. But he only wanted a schoolteacher wife as decoration. Someone educated enough to manage his household and raise refined children, but not so educated that I'd have opinions he'd need to consider. When I realized what he wanted, I ended it. But Boston felt too small after that. Too full of people who thought I'd been a fool to refuse such a good match." "His loss," Isaac said simply. "A woman with spirit and learning is worth 10 decorative wives." Something warm unfurled in Amelia's chest at his words. "Thank you. Not everyone sees it that way." "Then not everyone's thinking clearly." Outside, the wind howled with renewed fury, rattling the shutters. Isaac rose to check the door, making sure it was secure. "Storm's getting worse. We're in for a long night." "I'm sorry to impose," Amelia said. Isaac turned to her with surprise clear on his face. "Impose? You nearly died out there. Keeping you safe isn't an imposition, it's a blessing. Imagine if you'd walked past without seeing the cabin. I'd have found your body come spring and lived with that guilt forever." He shook his head firmly. "No, Miss Lancaster. You being here safe and warming by my fire is the opposite of an imposition." His gentle words, spoken with such conviction, brought tears to Amelia's eyes. The warmth in the cabin, the safety after such terror, the kindness of this stranger, all combined to overwhelm her careful composure. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold back the tears. Isaac saw and immediately knelt beside her chair. "Hey now," he said softly. "You're safe. I promise you're safe here." "I know," Amelia managed. "That's why I'm crying, because I'm safe, because you're kind, because I was so frightened out there and now I'm not." And the tears came harder. "It's all right," Isaac said. "You went through something terrible. You're allowed to feel it." He didn't try to touch her or hush her tears. He simply stayed close, a steady presence while she cried out her fear and relief. When the tears finally subsided, Amelia felt wrung out but better. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes with the blanket. "Nothing to apologize for." Isaac stood and moved to the shelves. "You must be hungry. Let me fix us something to eat." Amelia realized she was starving. She couldn't remember when she'd last eaten. "Can I help? You can sit there and keep warm. You've been through enough today." Isaac worked efficiently, pulling out supplies and setting a pot of beans to warm over the fire. He sliced bacon into the pot and added some dried onions. The smell made Amelia's stomach growl audibly. Isaac grinned. "Hungry, I take it." Apparently very much so. He cut thick slices from a loaf of bread that looked a few days old but still good. "I baked this 2 days ago. Not much for fancy cooking, but I can manage basics." "You bake your own bread?" "Have to. Nearest town is Lincoln, and that's a 2-hour ride in good weather. Man learns to do for himself out here, or he doesn't make it. Isaac stirred the beans. Besides, there's something satisfying about it, making something with your own hands, even if it's just bread. Amelia watched him move around the small cabin with practiced ease. Every movement was purposeful and efficient. His hands were large but gentle as he handled the food. She found herself noticing details about him. The way his hair curled at his collar, how his shoulders filled out his shirt, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. He was handsome in a rugged way, nothing like the polished men of Boston. More real somehow, more solid. The beans were ready soon, and Isaac served them in wooden bowls with the bread alongside. They ate at the small table, the shutters rattling as wind battered the cabin. But inside it was warm and safe. "This is delicious," Amelia said. "Thank you." "It's just beans and bacon," Isaac said, but he looked pleased. "The best beans and bacon I've ever had." They smiled at each other across the table, and Amelia felt that unfurling warmth again. She barely knew this man, yet she felt more comfortable with him than she ever had with Paul, despite months of courtship. After dinner, Isaac washed the dishes while Amelia dried. It felt domestic and natural, working side by side in the small space. When they finished, Isaac banked the fire for the night and turned to face an obvious problem. "About sleeping arrangements," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "You'll take the bed, I'll make a pallet by the fire." "I can't take your bed," Amelia protested. "You can and will. You've been through more today than anyone should endure. You need proper rest." Isaac was already pulling blankets from the trunk. "Besides, I've slept on floors plenty of times. It won't hurt me none." Amelia wanted to argue but found herself too exhausted. The warmth and food and emotional release had left her drained. "Thank you," she said quietly. Isaac made a pallet near the fire while Amelia climbed into the bed. The mattress was stuffed with straw but felt like heaven after the day she'd had. The quilts were heavy and warm. "Good night, Miss Lancaster," Isaac said, settling onto his pallet. "Good night, Mr. Northwood, and please call me Amelia." "Then you should call me Isaac." "Good night, Isaac." "Good night, Amelia." She heard him shift on his pallet, getting comfortable. The fire crackled softly. Outside, the storm continued its assault, but inside, all was warm and safe. Amelia closed her eyes and fell asleep almost instantly. When Amelia woke, gray light filtered through cracks in the shutters. The storm still raged outside, though perhaps not quite as fiercely. She sat up and saw Isaac already awake, adding wood to the fire. "Morning," he said when he noticed her stirring. "Hope you slept well." "Better than I have in weeks." Amelia stretched. "How long have you been awake?" "An hour or so." "Check the door." "We've got about 3 feet of snow against it, but I was able to clear it enough to open. Still coming down steady, though." Isaac hung a pot of coffee over the fire. "Storm's got another day in it, I'd guess. Another day trapped in the cabin." The thought should have worried Amelia, but instead she felt a curious anticipation. Another day with Isaac, learning more about him, talking and laughing. When had she started looking forward to his company so much? They ate breakfast, more bread with butter and jam, plus the hot coffee. Then Isaac pulled out a deck of cards. "You play poker?" he asked. "I've never learned. I can teach you. We've got time to kill." So Isaac taught her poker, and Amelia learned quickly. They played hand after hand, using dried beans as chips since they had no money to wager. Isaac proved a patient teacher, explaining strategy and when to fold or call. Amelia found she enjoyed the game, the combination of luck and skill. "You're a natural," Isaac said after she won 3 hands in a row, "or you're going easy on me. I wouldn't insult you that way. You're genuinely good at this." They played until noon, then Isaac made lunch, a stew from dried beef and vegetables. As they ate, Amelia asked about his life on the ranch. "Describe a typical day for me," she said. Isaac leaned back in his chair. "Wake before dawn. Check the animals, make sure they've got food and water. Mend fences if needed or build new ones. In spring, help with calving. Summer's branding time and we drive the cattle to better grazing. Fall is roundup when we gather the herd and sell off what we can. Then winter, just trying to keep everyone alive until spring. It sounds exhausting. It is, but it's good work, honest work. You go to bed tired every night, but you sleep well knowing you've earned it." Isaac met her eyes. "And there are moments that make it all worthwhile. Like watching the sunrise over the mountains, knowing that land is yours, or seeing a calf you helped birth grow into a strong heifer. Small things, maybe, but they matter." "They sound wonderful," Amelia said, and meant it. There was something appealing about Isaac's life for all its hardships. It had a clarity her life in Boston had lacked, purpose and meaning in every action. "What about teaching?" Isaac asked. "What made you want to do that?" Amelia thought about it. "I had a teacher when I was young, Miss Sarah Wright. She made learning feel like magic. Like every book was a door to another world. She encouraged me when my parents said education was wasted on a girl who'd just marry. She helped me get a scholarship to the normal school. When I graduated, I knew I wanted to give other children what she'd given me, that sense of possibility." "Did you give them that?" "I hope so. Some of them, at least. I had one student, Maria, whose parents didn't speak English. She struggled at first, but she was so determined. By the end of the year, she was reading at the top of the class, the pride in her eyes." Amelia smiled at the memory. "That's what made it worthwhile. You miss them, your students." "I do, but I'm hoping to teach here too. My aunt mentioned that Lincoln needs a school teacher. That's part of why I came." Isaac's face brightened. "That's perfect. There are plenty of children around here who need educating. The families would be grateful." They talked more about teaching, about the challenges of reaching different students. Isaac listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions. Amelia found herself sharing stories she'd never told anyone, about students who'd touched her heart, about frustrations and triumphs alike. Isaac's attention never wavered. He cared about what she was saying, really cared. It was intoxicating. The afternoon passed quickly. They played more cards, then Isaac taught her a game called checkers. Amelia won 2 out of 3 games, which made Isaac laugh. "I'm starting to think you've been hiding your gaming skills," he said. "Maybe I'm just a quick learner." "That you are." For dinner, Isaac made flapjacks with syrup, which he apologized for, saying he should have prepared better meals. But Amelia thought they were delicious. She told him so repeatedly. "You're easy to please," Isaac said, "or you're a better cook than you think." As night fell, they sat by the fire talking. Isaac asked about Boston, about the buildings and streets and harbor. Amelia described it all, painting pictures with words. Then she asked him about his travels, the cattle drives he'd worked before settling in New Mexico. "We'd moved thousands of head north to Kansas," Isaac said. "Took months. You'd see parts of the country that felt like God's private sketchbook, places so beautiful they'd take your breath away. But also places so harsh you wondered why anyone bothered, and the work was brutal. Long days in the saddle, nights sleeping on the ground. You'd get so tired you'd fall asleep while riding. That sounds dangerous." It was. Lost a friend on one drive, swept away crossing a swollen river. Another time we had a stampede that killed 2 men and scattered cattle for miles. But we kept going. The money was good, and we were young enough to think we were invincible. Isaac stared into the fire. "I learned ranching from the ground up on those drives. Everything I know about cattle, about reading weather and land, I learned from harder men than me." "You don't seem like a hard man," Amelia said quietly. Isaac looked at her. "I've got hard in me when I need it. Living out here demands it sometimes, but I try not to let it take over. I've seen men go cold inside from too much hardship, lose their compassion. I don't want to be that way." "You won't be," Amelia said with certainty. "You're too kind. You barely know me. I know enough. You took me in without hesitation. You gave up your bed. You've been nothing but gentle and respectful, even though we're alone and no one would know otherwise. That tells me who you are." Isaac held her gaze. In the firelight, his blue eyes seemed darker, more intense. "You're easy to be kind to, Amelia." Something electric passed between them. Amelia felt her breath catch. Isaac leaned slightly closer, then stopped himself, pulling back. "It's getting late," he said, his voice rougher than before. "You should get some rest." Amelia wanted to protest, wanted to sit up all night talking with him, but she sensed his need for distance. "All right. Good night, Isaac." "Good night, Amelia." She climbed into bed, but sleep didn't come quickly this time. She could hear Isaac moving around the cabin, banking the fire, settling onto his pallet. She thought about the way he'd looked at her, the heat in his eyes before he'd pulled away. Something was growing between them, something powerful and undeniable. Did he feel it too? He must, from the way he'd looked at her, but what could come of it? She barely knew him. They'd been thrown together by circumstance, trapped in a cabin by a blizzard. Once the storm passed, she'd go to her aunt's homestead, and Isaac would return to his ranch. They might never see each other again. The thought filled her with unexpected sadness. She didn't want to never see Isaac again. In 2 days, he'd become important to her in a way she couldn't fully explain. His gentle words and steady presence had given her more than just physical safety. They'd given her something she'd been missing without realizing it, a connection that felt real and deep. Eventually she slept, and when she woke it was to a different sound. Silence. The storm had stopped. Amelia sat up and saw Isaac already at the window, opening the shutters. Brilliant white light flooded the cabin, making her squint. "It's over," Isaac said. "Storm moved through in the night. Sky's clear now." Amelia joined him at the window. The world outside was transformed. Snow covered everything in deep drifts, pristine and beautiful. The sun glinted off the white expanse, creating a landscape of diamonds. Trees bent under the weight of snow, and the hills rolled away in endless white. "It's beautiful," Amelia breathed. "That it is. Also going to be hell to travel through." Isaac studied the snow. "Those drifts are 4 or 5 feet deep in places, but the temperature's already rising. Give it a day for some melting, and we can make our way out." Another day. Amelia felt guilty at the relief that washed through her. The 3rd day fell into a comfortable rhythm. Isaac went outside to clear more snow from the door and check on his supplies. Amelia tidied the cabin, making the bed and washing their few dishes. It felt natural, like they'd been doing this together for years rather than days. When Isaac came back in, stomping snow from his boots, his cheeks were red from cold. "It's warmer than yesterday, but still below freezing." "Snow's not melting much yet. Looks like we've got one more night." They ate breakfast together, then Isaac suggested they go outside for a bit. "You've been cooped up for 3 days," he said. "A little fresh air would do you good." So they bundled up in all the clothes they could layer and ventured out into the snow. It came nearly to Amelia's knees in the clearest spots, much deeper in the drifts. But the sun was warm on her face, and the air was clean and crisp. Isaac showed her around the area immediately surrounding the cabin. There was a small lean-to for storing wood, all of it buried now. A creek ran nearby, frozen solid under the snow. "Come spring, that creek runs strong with snowmelt," Isaac said. "Fish in there too, good eating." They walked a bit farther, and Isaac pointed out landmarks. The mountains in the distance, the direction to Lincoln, the valley where he kept some of his cattle. "I should ride out tomorrow and check on them," he said. "Make sure they weathered the storm. Will they be all right?" "Probably. Cattle are tougher than people give them credit for. They'll bunch together for warmth and wait it out. Might lose a few, but most should be fine." They walked until Amelia's feet went numb from the cold, then returned to the cabin. Isaac built up the fire while Amelia shed her outer layers. Her borrowed trousers and shirt were soaked at the hems. "I should check on your dress," Isaac said. "See if it's dry yet." He'd hung it near the fire yesterday. Now he brought it over and Amelia examined it, still slightly damp but wearable. "I should change back," she said. "Return your clothes." Something flickered in Isaac's expression, too quick to read. "I'll step outside while you change." He went out, closing the door behind him. Amelia changed quickly, the dress feeling strange after 2 days in trousers. She was just smoothing down her skirts when Isaac knocked. "Come in," she called. He entered and his eyes went to her immediately. "That's better," he said, then seemed to catch himself. "I mean, you look more comfortable." "I looked ridiculous in your clothes, you mean?" "No," Isaac said firmly. "You looked good, but this suits you better." They stared at each other across the small cabin. The air felt charged, heavy with unspoken words. "Isaac," Amelia began, not sure what she wanted to say. He crossed to her in 3 strides. "Amelia, I need to tell you something." "What? These 3 days with you have been—" He struggled for words. "I've been alone a long time. By choice, mostly. Figured I'd build up my ranch first, establish myself, then maybe court someone, make sure I had something to offer. But then you showed up at my door, half frozen and terrified, and everything changed." Amelia's heart pounded. "How did it change?" "I don't want you to leave. I know you have to, know you've got your aunt waiting and a life to build. But the thought of you walking out that door tomorrow, of never seeing you again, it's—" He shook his head. "I'm not saying this right." "You're saying it perfectly," Amelia whispered, "because I feel the same way." Isaac's eyes widened. "You do?" From almost the first moment. "Your gentle words when you opened the door, the way you've treated me with such kindness and respect. Isaac, I've never felt this way before, not with anyone. Not even with that banker fellow, especially not with him. What I feel with you is completely different, real, deep." Amelia stepped closer. "I don't want to leave either." "Then don't," Isaac said. "Stay, not just tonight but longer. I'll take you to your aunt's tomorrow like I should, but then I could call on you, court you proper, and if things go well, maybe you could stay permanently." "Are you asking me to marry you?" "Not yet. Too soon for that, no matter what my heart's telling me. But I'm asking if I can try to earn that right, if you'll give me a chance to show you what a life here could be like." Amelia felt tears prick her eyes, but these were happy tears. "Yes. Yes, I'll give you that chance. I want to see where this goes." Isaac smiled, an expression of pure joy that transformed his face. "Can I kiss you? I know I should wait, be proper, but I've been wanting to since yesterday." "Please," Amelia said. He cupped her face gently in his large hands and lowered his lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if he feared she might break. But Amelia leaned into it, and the kiss deepened. It was unlike anything she'd experienced. Paul's kisses had been dutiful, perfunctory. This was fire and promise and hope all mixed together. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "That was," Isaac began. "Perfect," Amelia finished. They spent the rest of the day in each other's arms, sitting by the fire and talking about the future. Isaac told her about his ranch, about his plans to expand. Amelia shared her hope of teaching, of building a school in Lincoln. "We could make a good life," Isaac said. "Not an easy one, but good. I can't promise luxury or comfort. Ranch life is hard." "I don't need luxury," Amelia said. "I need purpose and partnership. I need someone who sees me as an equal, who values what I think and feel. You've given me that in 3 days. I'll keep giving it to you for the rest of my life if you'll let me." They kissed again, and this time there was less hesitation. Isaac's arms came around her, pulling her close. Amelia melted into his embrace, feeling safer and more cherished than she ever had. As night fell, they made dinner together, moving around the small cabin in harmony. Amelia found herself imagining a future here, cooking meals with Isaac, talking about their days, building a life together. It felt right in a way nothing else ever had. "Tell me about your ranch," she said as they ate. "I want to know everything." So Isaac described it in detail. The main house, small but sturdy, with a good well and a barn for the horses. The bunkhouse where his 3 hired hands lived. The cattle, about 200 head currently, though he hoped to grow the herd. The land itself, 500 acres of hills and valleys and good grazing. "It's not much compared to the big spreads," he said, "but it's mine and it has room to grow." "It sounds perfect." "It's lonely," Isaac admitted, "working all day and coming home to an empty house. I've told myself it didn't matter, that I was building something that would matter later, but having you here, I realize how much I've missed having someone to share it with." "You'll have that now," Amelia said, "if things work out between us." "They will," Isaac said with certainty. "I know it's fast, know we barely know each other, but sometimes you just know, and I know this is right." Amelia nodded. "I know it too." That night, Isaac made his pallet again without being asked, though they both lingered over their goodnights. They kissed at the bedroom door, a long, sweet kiss that promised more to come. "Tomorrow's going to be hard," Isaac said. "Taking you to your aunt's, leaving you there, but I'll come calling the next day if that's all right." "I'll be waiting," Amelia promised. She slept deeply and woke to find Isaac already up, packing supplies. The morning was bright and clear, perfect for travel. "I'll saddle my horse," Isaac said. "You can ride with me. It's about 3 hours to your aunt's place." Amelia's stomach fluttered with nerves. Soon she'd see her aunt, would have to explain where she'd been. But more than that, leaving the cabin meant leaving this perfect bubble she and Isaac had created. Out in the world, things might be different. Doubts might creep in. As if reading her thoughts, Isaac crossed to her and took her hands. "Whatever happens, whatever your aunt says or anyone else, what we have is real. Don't doubt that." "I won't," Amelia promised. They set out an hour later, Amelia seated in front of Isaac on his sturdy bay gelding. His arms came around her to hold the reins, and she leaned back against his chest. The horse picked its way carefully through the snow, which was already melting in the bright sun. The ride took longer than 3 hours because of the snow, but Amelia didn't mind. She was warm against Isaac, and they talked the whole way. He pointed out features of the land, told her stories about learning to ranch. She told him more about teaching, about her hopes for a school. When they finally reached her aunt's homestead, a neat cabin with a large garden plot and several outbuildings, Isaac helped Amelia down from the horse. Before he could knock, the door flew open and a woman rushed out. "Amelia, thank God." Martha Lancaster was 50, gray-haired and strong-looking. She grabbed Amelia in a fierce hug. "When you didn't arrive and the storm hit, I thought the worst. Where were you?" "I got caught in the blizzard," Amelia explained. "My horse threw me. I would have died if Mr. Northwood hadn't found me. He sheltered me in his cabin until the storm passed." Martha's sharp eyes went to Isaac, assessing him. "Isaac Northwood, I know your name. You've got the ranch east of here." "Yes, madam." Isaac stood tall under her scrutiny. "Your niece was in bad shape when she found my cabin. I did what anyone would do." "Not everyone," Martha said shrewdly. "Some men would have taken advantage. I'm grateful you're not that sort." She turned to Amelia. "Come inside, both of you. You must be frozen." They went into the cabin, which was larger than Isaac's and beautifully kept. Martha made coffee and fussed over Amelia, checking her for signs of frostbite or illness. "I'm fine, Aunt Martha," Amelia assured her. "Mr. Northwood took excellent care of me." "Isaac, please," he said. Martha sat down with her own coffee, still studying them both. "3 days alone in a cabin. People will talk." "Let them," Amelia said firmly. "I'm alive because of Isaac. If people want to make something ugly out of that, it says more about them than us." Martha's lips quirked. "You've got spine, girl. Good, you'll need it out here." She looked at Isaac. "What are your intentions toward my niece, Aunt Martha?" Amelia protested. But Isaac didn't hesitate. "I intend to court her with your permission, madam." "I know it's fast, but those 3 days showed me what kind of woman Amelia is. She's strong and smart and kind. I'd be honored if she'd let me try to win her heart." "Sounds like you already have," Martha observed. Amelia blushed but didn't deny it. Martha was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, you can call on her, Isaac Northwood, but I'll be watching. My niece has had enough of men who don't value her properly. You treat her right or you'll answer to me." "I wouldn't dream of treating her any other way," Isaac said. He left soon after, but not before pulling Amelia aside for a private goodbye. "Tomorrow," he said. "I'll come tomorrow afternoon. I'll be here." He kissed her gently, mindful of her aunt watching from the window. "Thank you for stumbling into my cabin. Thank you for opening the door." Amelia watched him ride away, already counting the hours until she'd see him again. The next weeks passed in a blur of happiness. Isaac called on Amelia every few days, whenever ranch work allowed. They went on walks around her aunt's property, talking for hours. He brought her small gifts: a book from his limited collection, wildflowers once the snow melted enough to reveal them, a carved wooden horse he'd made himself. Martha chaperoned at first, but she soon relaxed, seeing how respectful Isaac was. She approved of him, Amelia could tell, though her aunt was too pragmatic to say so directly. "He's a good man," was all Martha would say. "Works hard, treats you right, that's what matters." 6 weeks after the blizzard, on a warm February afternoon that hinted at spring, Isaac arrived with a serious expression. "Walk with me," he asked. They strolled away from the cabin toward a small hill overlooking the valley. When they reached the top, Isaac turned to face Amelia. "I know it hasn't been long," he began. "Only about 2 months since the storm, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He took her hands. "Amelia Lancaster, I love you. I've loved you since that 3rd day in the cabin, maybe even before. You're everything I've ever wanted and things I didn't know to want. You're smart and brave and kind. You challenge me and comfort me in equal measure." He dropped to one knee, and Amelia's breath caught. "I don't have much to offer yet," Isaac continued. "A small ranch and a lot of hard work. But I can promise you'll never doubt my love or devotion. I'll respect your dreams and support your teaching. I'll be your partner in everything. Amelia, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Amelia's face. "Yes, yes, of course I'll marry you." Isaac stood and pulled a ring from his pocket. It was simple, just a thin gold band with a small stone, but to Amelia it was perfect. He slid it onto her finger, and then they were kissing, laughing and crying at the same time. "I love you," Amelia said. "I've loved you since you called me brave in that cabin, since you gave me your bed and treated me like I mattered. You do matter. You're everything." They walked back to Martha's cabin hand in hand. Her aunt took one look at their faces and smiled. "Well, it's about time," she said. "When's the wedding?" They married 6 weeks later, in early April of 1878, in the small church in Lincoln. The ceremony was simple, attended by Martha, Isaac's ranch hands, and a few families from the surrounding area. Amelia wore a simple blue dress Martha had helped her sew, and Isaac wore his best suit, brushed clean of trail dust. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Isaac's kiss was tender and full of promise. Amelia felt like her heart might burst with joy. They held a small reception at Isaac's ranch, which Amelia was seeing for the first time as its mistress. The house was small but well built, with 2 rooms and a loft. Isaac had cleaned it thoroughly and even added curtains to the windows, which touched Amelia deeply. "It's not much," he said as he showed her around. "It's perfect," Amelia said. "It's ours." That night, alone in their home for the first time, Isaac carried Amelia over the threshold. They stood in the main room, suddenly shy with each other despite all their talks and stolen kisses. "I want to make you happy," Isaac said quietly. "Every day for the rest of our lives." "You already do," Amelia assured him, "just by being you." He kissed her then, deep and passionate, and Amelia responded with equal fervor. Whatever hesitation they'd felt disappeared as they came together. 2 people who'd found each other against all odds, bound now by love and commitment. The days that followed fell into a rhythm. Isaac worked the ranch, rising before dawn to tend the cattle and mend fences. Amelia kept the house and began planning for the school. She met with families in the area, gauging interest in education for their children. The response was enthusiastic. By June, Amelia had 12 students committed to attending, ranging in age from 6 to 14. Isaac helped her convert an old storage building in Lincoln into a classroom. They spent evenings together painting walls and building desks. Martha donated books, and other families contributed what they could: slates, chalk, paper. When the school opened in September, Amelia stood before her students with pride and purpose. She was doing what she loved, making a difference in children's lives, and she got to go home every evening to a man who supported her dreams completely. Their first year of marriage had challenges. The ranch work was harder than Isaac had let on, and there were lean times when money was tight. A harsh winter took some of their cattle, and they had to make difficult decisions about which animals to keep and which to sell. But they faced everything together, talking through problems and supporting each other. Amelia learned ranching alongside domestic skills. She could ride now and help with roundups. Isaac learned to appreciate literature, reading aloud with Amelia in the evenings. They grew together, becoming not just husband and wife but true partners. In the spring of 1879, Amelia discovered she was pregnant. Isaac was overjoyed, immediately becoming overprotective. "You shouldn't be riding," he said, "or lifting heavy things." "I'm pregnant, not made of glass," Amelia laughed. "Women have been having babies for thousands of years while doing much harder work than I do." But she did let him fuss over her, touched by his concern. As her belly grew, Isaac would talk to it at night, telling their unborn child about the ranch and the land. "You're going to love it here," he'd say. "Wide open spaces to run and explore. Your mama will teach you reading and numbers, and I'll teach you about cattle and horses. We'll raise you to be strong and kind, just like her." Amelia would run her fingers through his hair, overwhelmed with love for this gentle man. Their son was born in November of 1879, during the first snowfall of winter. The birth was hard, attended by Martha and a midwife from Lincoln. Isaac paced outside for hours, praying. When he finally heard his son's first cry, he burst into the bedroom, ignoring the midwife's protests. "Is Amelia all right?" he demanded. "I'm fine," Amelia said tiredly. She held a small bundle. "Come meet your son." Isaac approached reverently. The baby was tiny, red-faced, and perfect. He had Amelia's dark hair and Isaac's blue eyes. "He's beautiful," Isaac whispered. "Just like his mother." They named him James after Isaac's father. James Northwood came into the world squalling and hungry, and he changed everything. The house seemed fuller with him in it, warmer somehow. Isaac proved as devoted a father as he was a husband, waking for night feedings and diaper changes without complaint. "You need your rest," he'd tell Amelia. "I've got this." Watching Isaac rock their son to sleep, singing softly, Amelia fell in love with him all over again. The years passed quickly, full of work and love and laughter. Amelia took a break from teaching that first year but returned when James was old enough. Martha, who'd become a permanent fixture in their lives, watched him during school hours. The ranch grew steadily. With careful management, Isaac expanded the herd and bought more land. By 1882, they had 500 head of cattle and had hired 2 more hands. The small house was expanded, adding 2 more rooms and a proper porch. In the summer of 1883, Amelia gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Sarah. She had Isaac's light hair and Amelia's green eyes, and she wrapped her father around her tiny finger immediately. "I'm doomed," Isaac said, holding his daughter. "She'll ask for the moon and I'll try to lasso it for her. She'll ask for books instead," Amelia predicted, "and her own horse." That too, their family continued to grow. A third child, another son named William, arrived in 1885. 3 children made the house chaotic but joyful. James was serious and thoughtful, helping his father with ranch work. Sarah was adventurous and independent, always exploring. William was happy and easygoing, content wherever he was placed. The school thrived as well. More families settled in the area, and Amelia's student count grew to 25. She taught reading, writing, mathematics, history, and science. Many of her students went on to become teachers themselves, carrying forward the love of learning she'd instilled. Through it all, Isaac remained her rock. They still talked every evening, sharing their days. He still looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. Their love, forged in a blizzard and tested by time, only grew stronger. In the spring of 1890, Amelia stood on their porch, watching Isaac teach James and William how to rope a calf. Sarah sat beside her, reading a book. Amelia was pregnant again, due in the fall. At 32, with 3 children and a 4th on the way, she felt completely content. Martha joined her on the porch, moving slower these days at 62 but still sharp as a tack. "Happy?" her aunt asked. "Completely," Amelia said. "I never imagined life could be this good. You've built something special here, both of you. We were lucky. That storm brought us together." "Luck had nothing to do with it," Martha said. "You made good choices and worked hard. That's what built this life." Maybe her aunt was right, but Amelia still thought of that blizzard as the best thing that ever happened to her. If she hadn't gotten lost in the storm, if she hadn't found Isaac's cabin, where would she be? Still searching for purpose and partnership, probably. Still feeling incomplete. Isaac looked up from the corral and caught her watching. His face broke into that smile she loved, the one that still made her heart flutter after 12 years. "I love you," he mouthed. "I love you too," she mouthed back. That evening, after the children were in bed, Isaac and Amelia sat on the porch in their rocking chairs, watching the sun set over their land. "You remember the first thing you said to me?" Amelia asked. "Good Lord, get inside, quickly now," Isaac recalled. "Not very romantic." "It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed to hear, you promising safety." Isaac took her hand. "Do you still feel safe with me? Every single day. You've given me everything I ever wanted, Isaac. A home, a family, purpose, and partnership. But most of all, you've given me love. Real, deep, lasting love." "You gave me the same thing," Isaac said. You wandered into my life half frozen and terrified, and you brought the warmth I didn't know I was missing. You made my house a home. You gave me children and laughter and meaning beyond just working myself to death." They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. After 12 years, they didn't always need words. The silence between them was as rich as their conversations. The fourth child, another daughter they named Emma, arrived in October of 1890. She was their last, they decided, though they loved her no less for it. 4 children felt complete, a family perfectly sized for their lives. As Emma grew, Amelia saw pieces of both her and Isaac in all their children. James had Isaac's steadiness and her love of learning. Sarah had his adventurous spirit and her determination. William had his gentleness and her creativity. Emma seemed to have the best of both of them, thoughtful but bold, kind but strong. The ranch continued to prosper. By 1895, they ran 1,000 head of cattle and had expanded to 1,500 acres. Isaac had built a reputation for fair dealing and quality stock. Ranchers from across New Mexico sought his advice, but success never changed him. He still rose before dawn to check the cattle himself, still helped with every difficult birth and mourned every loss, still treated his hired hands with respect and paid them fairly. Amelia had known he was a good man from that first night in the cabin, and time had only confirmed it. The school grew too. Amelia had nearly 40 students now, which meant hiring an assistant teacher. She chose one of her former students, Maria, who'd gone on to get her own education. Watching Maria teach, seeing the way she inspired her students, filled Amelia with pride. This was legacy, the ripple effect of education spreading outward. In the summer of 1898, 20 years after the blizzard that brought them together, Isaac and Amelia celebrated their 20th anniversary. The children, now ranging from age 19 to 8, helped plan a party. Friends and neighbors gathered at the ranch, spilling out of the house into the yard. Martha, now 70 and frail, sat in a place of honor, watching the celebration with satisfaction. She'd lived to see her niece build a beautiful life, and that meant everything. As the party wound down and the last guests departed, Isaac and Amelia found themselves alone on the porch again, their children inside cleaning up. 20 years, Isaac marveled. Feels like both forever and no time at all. "I know what you mean," Amelia said. "I can barely remember life before you, yet I remember every day we've spent together." Isaac pulled her close. At 45, he had gray threading through his brown hair and lines around his eyes. But to Amelia, he was as handsome as the day she'd first seen him. "If I could go back," Isaac said, "and change anything about my life, I wouldn't. Every hardship, every struggle led me to that cabin on that night when you knocked on my door." "I'd change one thing," Amelia said. Isaac pulled back, surprised. "What?" "I'd have told you I loved you sooner. Maybe on that second day instead of waiting." Isaac laughed. "We had time. We have time still. Years and years ahead of us." And they did. Years of watching their children grow into adults. James took over more of the ranch work, eventually becoming Isaac's full partner. Sarah married a neighboring rancher's son and started her own spread. William became a lawyer, studying in Santa Fe. Emma followed her mother into teaching. The years brought sorrows too. Martha passed away in 1901, dying peacefully in her sleep at 73. They buried her on a hill overlooking the valley she'd loved. Amelia grieved deeply, but she had her family around her, supporting her through the loss. More joys followed. Grandchildren arrived, first from Sarah, then eventually from James and William and Emma. The ranch house expanded again, filled with the sounds of children's laughter once more. Isaac proved as devoted a grandfather as he'd been a father, teaching the grandchildren about cattle and horses, just as he'd promised their unborn first child so many years ago. Amelia, her hair now gray but her spirit still strong, continued teaching until she was 60. She retired in 1908, but she never stopped reading and learning. Her house remained full of books, and she read stories to her grandchildren just as she'd read to their parents. Through it all, through 50 years of marriage, Isaac and Amelia's love never dimmed. They still talked every evening, still held hands while watching sunsets. They knew each other completely, all the flaws and strengths, and loved each other anyway. In the spring of 1928, as they approached their 50th anniversary, Isaac fell ill. Pneumonia, the doctor said. At 75, his body couldn't fight it as it once would have. Amelia sat by his bedside holding his hand while their children and grandchildren gathered. "I'm not afraid," Isaac told her one evening, his voice weak. "I've had a good life, better than I ever dreamed possible." "Don't talk like that," Amelia said, though tears streamed down her face. "You're going to get better, maybe, but if I don't, you need to know something." Isaac squeezed her hand. "Every single day with you has been a gift. You've made me happier than any man deserves to be. Thank you for walking through that blizzard to my cabin. Thank you for staying." "I'll always stay," Amelia whispered. "Always." Isaac died 3 days later, peacefully in his sleep with Amelia beside him. She was 70, and for the first time in 50 years she was alone. The funeral was huge. It seemed like everyone in New Mexico came to pay respects to Isaac Northwood, the rancher who treated everyone fairly, who'd built a prosperous spread through honest work and determination. But Amelia barely noticed the crowds. She stood at the grave, staring at the coffin, trying to process a world without Isaac in it. Her children supported her through those dark months. They tried to convince her to move in with one of them, but Amelia refused. The ranch was her home, full of memories. She wouldn't leave it. "Your father and I built this together," she told James. "I can still feel him here." So she stayed, living in the house they'd expanded together, walking the land they'd worked. She was lonely, desperately so, but she had her memories. 50 years of love and laughter, of partnership and purpose. Amelia lived another 10 years, dying in 1938 at age 80. She'd remained sharp until the end, reading and learning, writing letters to her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. But those who knew her best said part of her had died with Isaac, and she'd spent those 10 years waiting to join him. They buried her beside Isaac on a hill overlooking the ranch they'd built together. The gravestone was simple: Isaac Northwood, 1853–1928, and Amelia Lancaster Northwood, 1858–1938. Below their names, a single line: united by a blizzard, bound by love. Their descendants kept the ranch running, generation after generation. The story of how Isaac and Amelia met became family legend, told and retold to each new child. How a blizzard had trapped them together, how Amelia had found safety in Isaac's gentle words, how a 3-day storm had sparked a love that lasted 50 years. The cabin where they'd first met still stood, maintained by the family as a memorial. Visitors could see the fireplace where they'd sat talking, the corner where Isaac's bed had stood, the table where they'd played cards. It was a simple place, but it represented something profound. The power of kindness, the strength of connection, the way love could bloom in the unlikeliest circumstances. James, their eldest, often brought his own grandchildren to the cabin, telling them the story. "Your great-grandfather opened that door in a blizzard and found your great-grandmother half frozen on his porch," he'd say. He could have turned her away, worried about propriety or what people might think, but he didn't. He brought her inside, kept her safe, and in doing so found the love of his life. That's what built all of this. Not just hard work or good land. Love. Real, lasting love that started with simple kindness. The children would listen, wide-eyed, and then run around the cabin, imagining the blizzard, the fear, the romance. They'd look at the rough furniture and try to picture their great-grandparents as young people falling in love. Did they really know after just 3 days? One child asked. They knew, James confirmed. Sometimes when something's right, you just know. Your great-grandfather said that all the time. He said the moment your great-grandmother walked through that door, his life changed. He just didn't realize how much until later. As decades passed and the 20th century gave way to the 21st, the ranch remained in family hands. Isaac and Amelia's descendants numbered in the hundreds now, spread across the country. But many returned regularly to New Mexico, to the ranch, to walk the land their ancestors had worked. The cabin became a place of pilgrimage for family members. Couples getting engaged often visited it, seeking the same blessing Isaac and Amelia had found. The family started a tradition. Newlyweds would spend their first night in the restored cabin, sleeping in a bed placed where Isaac's had once stood, rekindling the magic of that blizzard-bound time. The school Amelia had built was long gone, replaced by modern facilities. But a plaque in Lincoln honored her. Amelia Lancaster Northwood, 1858–1938, beloved teacher and pioneer of education in Lincoln County. Former students, or more often their descendants, would leave flowers there, remembering the woman who taught their grandparents to read. The love story of Isaac and Amelia became more than just family history. Writers discovered it, and it appeared in books about the Old West, about pioneer love stories. Historians noted it as an example of how communities were built, not just by strength and determination, but by human connection and kindness. But for the family, the story remained personal and powerful. It reminded them where they came from, what values their ancestors had held: kindness, respect, partnership, love that was deep and real and lasting. On the 100th anniversary of Isaac's death, in 2028, the family gathered at the ranch for a memorial. Nearly 200 descendants came, from infants to the very old. They shared a meal, told stories, and walked the land together. James's grandson, another Isaac, now ran the ranch. He was 50 with children of his own, and he'd heard the blizzard story his entire life. As he stood on the porch of the main house, watching his family spread across the yard, he felt the weight of legacy. His wife, standing beside him, squeezed his hand. "They'd be proud," she said. "Look at what they built." Isaac looked at the land, the cattle grazing in distant pastures, the house that had grown from a 2-room cabin. But mostly he looked at the people. Children playing, teenagers laughing, parents watching, grandparents reminiscing. All of them here because of a blizzard in 1878, because a cowboy had opened his door to a freezing stranger and spoken gentle words of safety. They built more than a ranch, Isaac said. They built a legacy of love. As the sun set that evening, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the family gathered at the cemetery. They stood around the graves of Isaac and Amelia, holding candles against the growing darkness. The youngest member of the family, a girl of 5, stepped forward with her mother's help. She'd been chosen to read the inscription on the gravestone. "United by a blizzard," she read carefully, sounding out the big words. "Bound by love." The candles flickered in the evening breeze, but they didn't go out. Like the love that had started in a cabin during a storm, they burned steady and true. A light against the darkness, a warmth against the cold, enduring long after those who'd first kindled them had gone. And in that moment, with 100 descendants gathered around their graves, Isaac and Amelia's love felt more present than ever. Not dead and buried, but alive in every person standing there. Their story hadn't ended when they died. It continued in their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, in every act of kindness and love, in every choice to open doors instead of closing them, to offer safety instead of suspicion. The blizzard had trapped them in his cabin, alone. She had found safety in the cowboy's gentle words, and from that simple beginning had grown something extraordinary. A love that conquered death, that spread across generations, that changed the world one small act of kindness at a time. As the family left the cemetery that night, heading back to the ranch house for more stories and laughter, the last one to leave was the current Isaac. He stood by the grave a moment longer, hand on the stone. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for being brave enough to knock on that door, great-grandmother. For being kind enough to open it, great-grandfather. Everything good in my life traces back to that moment." The wind whispered through the grass, and for just a moment, Isaac could have sworn he heard laughter. A young woman's bright laugh, a man's deeper chuckle, the sound of two people in love, forever young in memory, forever together despite death's separation. He smiled and walked back toward the house, toward his own wife and children, toward the future that rested on the foundation of the past. The ranch would endure. The family would grow, and the story would be told again and again, of a blizzard, a cabin, and a love that lasted forever. Because that's what love does when it's real. It endures, it grows, it changes everything, and it all started with gentle words spoken in a doorway. "Get inside quickly now, you're safe. Safe, loved, home." That was the legacy of Isaac and Amelia. Not just land or cattle or success, but the simple, profound truth that love and kindness could transform everything. That a single act of compassion could ripple across generations. That opening your door, opening your heart, could change the world. As the lights in the ranch house glowed warm against the New Mexico night, the story lived on, told and retold, cherished and honored. The blizzard had long since melted, the snow had long since vanished, but what it had created remained. Love, family, legacy. And somewhere in whatever comes after, Isaac and Amelia sat together still, hands linked, watching over the family they'd created, proud of the love they'd built, grateful for the blizzard that had brought them together all those years ago. The end.